Good morning and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. This week we are looking ahead to 2015 and 2016. With many of the races in Texas settled, the focus is now on the presidential run and the two likely Texans to be in the fight. This week Governor Perry released a campaign video, despite the governor's insistence that he hasn't decided whether to run or not.
The Texas of the 21st century must be a place that invites all. A place where vivid dreams and bold ideas await their realization. My vision is not to merely celebrate that progress, but to advance it. We are a people of tremendous resources, and we are never content with the accomplishments of yesterday, because tomorrow represents our greater hope. The promise of tomorrow begins today.
In an interview with the Washington Post, Governor Perry said his team showed this video to about 600 donors at the mansion. That speech featured was from the governor's inauguration 14 years ago. You guys remember that?
I do remember that.
Were you there?
I was.
Well, we're joined now by Ross Ramsey from the Texas Tribune and Bob Garrett from the Dallas Morning News. Thanks, guys, for being with us.
I don't remember the Bruce Willis asteroid music, but I was there.
It was like
what
a movie
younger
trailer.
governor he was.
Yeah, I had hair too. It was great.
How's he changed since then? That's a long time.
He's, I mean, in some ways he's remarkably the same political figure. I mean, he's gotten better at these things. You know, you get 14 years and you've really sort of mastered the tools of your office. But, in some ways it's pretty much the same political character, the same political philosophy. A lot of that has remained unchanged.
We've seen, the last time you ran for president, there were quite a bit of missteps. You started off strong, but then you had the gaffes and the oops moment. And, this week he had a question on MSNBC, are you smart enough to be president? And he said, running for the presidency is not an IQ test. It's a test of an individual's resolve. It is a test of an individual's philosophy. It is a test of an individual's life experience. That may be so, but how many people in America do you think are asking that question, are you smart enough to be president?
Well, it's a huge hurdle for him. I mean, and it was interesting, that Washington Post story saying that Anita Perry is pushing him to do this. I remember really well 2.5 years ago talking with a friend of Anita Perry's, and she said, he's about to start this presidential race. Anita is reading books every night by her bedstand. And I said, well, what about the governor? And the woman just said, not so much. And that was obvious once he got on the field that he was just kind of winging it. Now he's selling experience and a chastened, proven executive leader, but I'm not sure Republican primary voters in Iowa and South Carolina aren't going to fall for the fresh new face, and that won't be Rick Perry.
We've had potential donors over to the mansion, and he's had some advisors been, beefing him up on foreign policy and some other issues that a presidential candidate might have, but he says not really going to make an announcement until May or June.
Right. Well, you've got a big field to kind of sort through. It seems like there's 75 people running for the Republican nomination. There's 5 people with Texas ties. So you have to kind of clear. You have to see if you can raise money when you're not in the governor's mansion. You have to see if you can overcome, the oops moment and all the baggage that came with that. And you have to see what the rest of the field looks like and whether you're competitive inside that field.
And don't forget the indictment.
And there's an indictment problem to get rid of.
Exactly. How do you think that all of this stuff that has come out with Perry recently, all this media exposure, is going to affect if Ted Cruz wants to jump into the race?
I don't think it's going to deter him one bit. He has a much greater media platform, and that will be, being a spur or a thorn in the side of Mitch McConnell, and it's ready-made for him to make ink and headlines anytime he wants, the new Senate, Republican-controlled Senate.
Well, he did tell the Washington Post that he's a substantially different candidate. Perry did. What does that mean?
Well, last time I think he was a cowboy, and in that interview he talked more about being the fly boy, the aviator. He said if you want the one in the front left seat not to be a low-time private pilot, but a high-time experienced aviator. So we'll see if that kind of leather jacket will fly this time.
Yeah, he's trying to sell leadership this time. And, last time he kind of thought he could wing this thing and just walk in. And at the very beginning, that was probably his best day, when he kind of walked in, and as people learned more about him, he began to fall, and the competition began to wear him down. The same things are ahead of him now, but at least he's seen it once.
When Governor-elect Abbott has already been talking about his priorities, some things like border security and early childhood education, those seem like, pretty normal issues for a legislature to be talking about. But, recently, with the last couple of sessions, we had emergency items right out the gate from Governor Perry as far as sanctuary cities, sonogram law, TSA anti-groping. Those are pretty divisive issues. Are we going to see that big of a difference between these two governors?
Well, I don't think Greg Abbott's running for president, so he doesn't have the motivation to put things out that will help him immediately in Iowa or South Carolina.
Yeah, Greg Abbott just came out of an election. He's not running into one. Abbott's done a pretty good job so far of not identifying himself as belonging to one faction or the other in the Republican Party. Perry was going into divisive Republican primary elections and Republican primary contention for the presidency and wanted to distinguish himself from other Republicans. Abbott doesn't need to do that.
And Perry, you notice in that Washington Post interview, is settling old scores, too. Mitt Romney, you remember, got to his right on immigration, attacked him for the in-state tuition for illegal, unauthorized immigrants. And Perry, in this interview, is saying, we lost that election because Romney, alienated Hispanics with his self-deportation rhetoric. And so it was kind of like touche. But this next race is not about Mitt Romney or Rick Perry. It's got to be about who are the new faces Rick Perry has to catch up with, Ted Cruz among them.
How easy is that transition going to be, getting rid of Perry in the governor's mansion and getting Greg Abbott into there? I mean, I haven't been in Texas since we have had a new governor move into the governor's mansion, so what's the process, guys?
Well, their baby's about to get their driver's licenses who haven't known a governor other than Rick
Are you
Perry.
calling me a baby?
If the shoe fits well.
Watch it.
It used to be unusual, to not have transitions. George Bush was the first one to get elected 2 times in a row in 20 years. It's certainly unusual. Perry's been the governor 2 years longer than FDR was president of the United States. The first thing is, you get a whole bunch of new people in office. It's not just the governor or the lieutenant governor who's coming in, it's those entire staffs. And so it's going to take them a little bit of time to kind of find their way around. Where do we keep the pencils, all of those kinds of things. And I expect, because of the number of people coming in new this time, that the session will start off relatively slowly. But Abbott's been around government for a while, knows his way around. It's not like a party change where not only are you trying to find your way, but you're trying to find your way past a bunch of partisans. So I think it'll be pretty smooth. You think so too?
Well, I think until we get down to deciding some money issues and tax cut issues that expose the cleavages in the Republican Party between sort of the moderate wing, or shouldn't even say that, the conservative wing and the real conservative wing.
My last question is about Governor-elect Greg Abbott. He just recently waged war on the Obama administration again. This time it's for the president's immigration policy. Got about a month until he becomes the actual governor of Texas. How do you keep that fight going? Is Ken Paxton really prepared to take on that big of a challenge?
Oh, I think so. Look at who Paxton is hiring. They're all from Ted Cruz's staff. I mean, you can't get more bellicose than Ted Cruz, right, when it comes to Barack Obama. So I think that's pretty easy for Paxton to maintain, because it's a very popular thing. I'm fighting Barack Obama.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty easy handoff. I think Bob's right. I think as soon as Greg Abbott has to pick a side in a Republican fight, then this could get interesting. But I don't think the governor and the attorney general are going to immediately come to differences. They inevitably will, but not right away.
All right. Thank you guys for being with us, and thank you again for joining us for State of Texas In Depth. Remember, you can join us every Sunday morning in the 8:30 half hour for a broader look at Texas politics. Stay tuned for Meet the Press coming up at 9. I'm Josh Hinkle. Have a great day.